Welcome back to Picayune Conversations. Oh yeah, I did it. I just steamrolled right over you.
She almost forgot the name of our podcast.
Why you gotta do that to me?
She's like, welcome back to Picayune Conversations.
I wanted to make sure I talked over you so I could annoy you.
Okay.
Because today we're talking about fascism, so.
Oh, okay. Well, how about that?
I had to talk over you.
By the way, this is news to me. Like, I didn't really know what we're doing. So we're talking about fascism today.
Stir you up a little bit.
Interesting.
Because we're all stirred up about, I'll just gesture vaguely to the world.
So how do we want this to go? Like, what do we want to say?
I have something that I want you to just expand upon.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Sure.
But it's coming from my head. Let's say, not as a definition, but as a working, like, Adlerian kind of way of thinking about fascism, it means, like, you're only in if others are out.
Okay. I like that. Okay. You're only in if others are out. Mm-hmm. There certainly does seem to be, certainly among political scientists, there seems to be an agreement that there is something about fascism that has to do with purity.
Oh, yeah.
And like this desire to clean up and to disinfect and to, like, it's very interesting, to see there's some level of that. And so there certainly is a clear distinction between insider, outsider. Fascism also seems to be very, like, an element of fascism has to do with nationalism, which depends on this, like, insider, outsider distinction. Yeah. By the way, I'm by no means saying that if you have an insider-outsider distinction, that therefore you are a fascist. Like, fascism is more than that. Absolutely. But that does seem to be a prominent element. So I don't have a place unless they're out. Is that how did you put it?
Dependent upon exclusion. Yeah,
Okay.
You only belong if other people are out.
Okay.
Like, if you, just even add on that, you can only belong with us or me if other people are out. If you're, like, on my side, I'm in control.
Okay. Yeah.
It's counterfeit community is what it is. But.
Yeah, and I'm always struck by this. I was listening to this really fascinating interview where they were talking about, I think it was about foreign aid or something, and I won't get into, like, the specifics of the situation. We're not political scientists, okay? But this person having this perspective of, well, I would rather that thousands of people from this other nationality die than one American die. And listen, there's a level to which I get it. In other words, like, I am much more concerned about the lives of my children than I am about the lives of other people's children. Like, same. That's true, and I can't get around that. I do think that there's some kind of primal and unavoidable about that.
Biological is not your fault.
Yeah, sure.
Also, they're cute.
And so then I think there's also this. I think that extends out a little bit to to kith and kin and whatever, but it also is bizarre to me in this way, that it assumes that the death of somebody across an ocean somehow has nothing to do with me or with my children. And that, like, well, as long as I'm okay, what do I care what happens to other people? And so this is also another aspect of fascism, where there seems to be this kind of protectionist, like, isolationist thing of, like, we're going to take care of us, and to hell with everybody. Like, we don't care what happens to anybody else. Like, if they're okay, that's fine, but we're not going to, burn a calorie or spend $1 or anything like that to make sure that other people are okay. We're just going to look to ourselves, and that's that.
That's the opposite of Gemeinschaftsgefühl.
Yeah, okay, so because some of our listeners, like, they're like, what is this weird German word?
Which it's, with what we're talking about. It is, like, well, commonly it's defined as social interest or a community feeling, or that guy when we were in on our way to the Cluster Steinfeld, you were talking his head off.
Oh, yeah.
And you asked him to define it, like an actual German to define it, and he said it's a we feeling, but all together.
A we feeling altogether.
Like, oh, that's just, like, that's perfect. And I feel like that's the antidote to fascism, is social community feeling, where there's mutual respect. What is good for you is good for me. What is bad for you is also bad for me.
I also think that there's this level of understanding that and I know this is going to sound like a very kind of like hippy-dippy
I'm a hippie, so go for it.
You know, put it on a throw pillow, kind of a throwaway phrase. But I think there's actually real substance to it, that like we genuinely do need each other. And here's part of what I mean is like, I need people who disagree with me, because unless I believe that I am absolutely perfect, because when people disagree with me and they create counter pressure, it allows me to, first of all, become aware of what I'm missing. You know, I may not be seeing something or whatever, but also that the struggle to press through with what I think is right, it's more robust if I have some counter pressure. And so this idea that like liberals need conservatives, they like this idea that the world would be a great place if all the conservatives would just shut up and sit in a corner and not say anything, and let the liberals, like, we've got it from here. We would have a very, very bad world. Yeah. And of course this is true vice versa, where there's this idea that like we need these liberal Democrats and these leftists to shut up, to be quiet, to be off of the air, to offer no criticism, to stop messing with our inefficient, you know, to stop making our world inefficient, and then everything will be fine. And it's like, it will not be fine. We will not have a good world. We need each other. And I'm not even saying that that's all like pleasant and fun. It's not all like, you know, singing songs around a campfire. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying sometimes it's maybe not violent, but there is a kind of animosity and pressure and tension that exists between people that we genuinely need. And we need that psychologically, but then we also need that on the level of community.
It reminds me of like when people have a problem when you question faith, but it's like, doesn't that make your faith stronger? If you ask all the questions and it expands out and you, I don't know, like it brings a level of security.
Yeah.
I feel like, and that is, I will say, I think it was Adler in the 30s where fascism was growing across Europe, by the way, where he said the only security is social interest.
Yeah, and so like unpack that a little bit for folks. That's really a striking face. The only security is social interest, or this we feeling altogether, this community feeling. Yeah,
I just feel like fascism, it kind of like depends on like its oxygen is discouragement. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sure.
You expand more.
So another element of fascism is often that there is this preoccupation with community decline, you know, so like
it's fear-based.
Let's listen, if you haven't guessed it, we have some opinions politically about what's going on right now in the United States, but we're not going to get on a big rant about the specifics of that, or, you know, endorse a candidate or something. But when Trump talks about these liberal leftist cities, and he describes them in this kind of post-apocalyptic way of, you know, you would think that you would go to Chicago and it would just be a wasteland of, you know, burnt out buildings and, you know, people just, you know, getting sexually assaulted in the middle of the street on a Wednesday, and like that's what it's like. There's this preoccupation with that, also with a kind of victimhood of like, I or my group, we are being oppressed. He does this a lot with Christians, and I say this as a Christian. There is this truly insane idea that somehow Christians are being oppressed. Even this Charlie Kirk assassination, which we will be clear, we think this is a horrific, awful thing that should never ever happen. We do not believe in political violence. Period. End of story. So it's not that we are in any way happy about that or even ambivalent or numb to that. It's terrible that happened. Terrible. But also this bizarre take that somehow Charlie Kirk was a Christian martyr.
Virtuous.
Again, we have this thing of, but all of that speaks to this discouragement, this sense of my ability to count, to matter, to belong, to contribute, all of that is under threat. And so therefore I am justified in doing whatever I need to do and to make sure that I have a place to contribute, to count, to matter, etc. Which is, and here's why it's bizarre, okay, is that here I am, I am the poster child of the oppressed person on the political right, okay?
Poor you.
I am cisgendered. I'm heterosexual. I am a confessing Christian. I am not politically leftist by any means. I am not. I'm middle class. I have an advanced degree. Whatever. You would think that my life would just be horrible and awful, and that there are these wild bands of leftists who are coming for my money and coming for my children and coming for my wife, and they want to ruin everything that's good about my life. And I'll just tell you, I know a lot of leftists, people that I would disagree with vehemently about a lot of things, and they don't want to do any of that to me. They love me, they are kind to me, they're respectful to me, and so it is just a myth that this is going on. And I'm sure that we could find some example where some kid is bullied at his school by a leftist, liberal adult, and that is wrong. It is not okay, and also that is not what is happening on the level of culture or society. It's just not happening. But you can hear the discouragement that's in there. Yeah.
And I just feel like every day I wake up and democracy feels like it's getting a little more suffocated because there's no mutual trust. It looks virtuous, like he's like, hey, I have all the answers.
Yeah.
So you can trust me, and it's masked as virtue, and it's really just control.
But I think this is actually a really important point, that I think sometimes when we talk about fascism or we talk about fascists, what people think that means is that there is this monster, this sociopathic monster, who is out there with, doing his fingers like this in a dark room, surrounded by other people who are doing this. Like if you can imagine that round table on the Death Star, and Darth Vader's there, and that they're drumming up these like evil plans. And really, what it is it's people who genuinely think that they are justified in doing what they're doing.
Which is scarier.
They think that they are fighting for freedom and for virtue and for truth and whatever, and so they don't have to be sociopathic in order to do this. But what they do is that they compromise principles of process, meaning like reciprocity, okay, golden rule stuff of like, do not treat others in a way that you would not also want to be treated. Yeah. They forsake that under the guise of, but if I do that, that's going to be too inefficient, and then bad things will happen. And so for good things to happen, we have to get rid of this principle, fundamentally, that's just a lack of integrity. It's saying rules for thee, but not for me. I know what's right, and I should not have to. I'm entitled to a world in which I do not have to be bothered by your disagreement with me. Which is
sounds familiar. It's just all fear-based. Like, I know we typically, if we were, not to be reductionistic, but we do things either fear, love, or both. And fear has just been the fertilizer for all of this to, like, kind of grow. And it feels like it's happened in, like, a sneaky way. Yeah. Like you said, like, it's not some, like, monster on the Death Star. It's just regular humans. Yeah. Who probably deep down They don't have malice in their heart, It makes me think of the serial killer klutz metaphor episode that we did.
That's right, yeah.
Not everybody is serial killers, but like that's what we imagine. At least that's what I imagine. There's no trust. Like, how can you trust any person or government like that? Because it's like, if I don't do exactly what they want and think it's the right thing, then I'm going to be one of the ones on the out. And if I'm out, I'm hurt. It seems scary to me. And societies need mutual trust. Like, thank you, Scandinavia, for being a really good example. There's
this really fascinating phrase, and I'm so sorry. We'll put it in the show notes or something who actually said this. But this is a social commentary quote that has been oft repeated to me, and I think is really cool. It gets talked about a lot among people who are planting churches or running churches, but they say, what you win them with, you win them to. And so like the idea, how that shows up in like a church setting is like, okay, well, what you win them with are these, fog machines and lights and, highly, like super well done music or something. Well, then that's actually what you're winning them to. You're not winning them to the transcendent truths of a holy religion. You're winning them to a great live music show. And by the way, I have nothing against a great live music show. I love live music. But, that there's something that's really true in there. So with fascism, I feel like, okay, there's something to what the process by which you are winning people over to an idea, okay, or winning a culture over to a certain result. It's actually the process. It's not the result that you're winning people over to. And so I think part of what concerns me so much about what's happening in the United States right now is that there seems to be this sense of, okay, we have a sense of what is good, what a good society looks like. And by the way, I think it is people's right to have that. Like, and to have a different one than me. That's okay. That's all right. I would never begrudge somebody for having a picture of what a good society looks like. But here's where I get concerned, is that then there's this added step of, and not only do I have an idea of what a good community looks like, but I should be allowed to forsake all of the processes by which we've agreed these are good processes. This is how we pursue justice. This is how we affect goodness in our society. I can leave those. I can just abandon and betray those because I'm right about this. And so then what you win people over to are not the results. It's not some, free market or which I don't really think conservatives are particularly interested in a free market right now anyways, but like it's not these like conservative outcomes of like lower taxes or what. That's not actually what you've won people over to. What you have won them over to is force.
Fear.
Getting my way through force. And by the way, that would apply as much to people on the left as it would to people on the right. When we forsake principles, when we lose touch with like a golden rule understanding of, I would not want somebody doing this to me. And so therefore, it's impermissible for me to do it to them. When we lose touch with that, it's not about political lines. There are people on the left who are willing to bully people into doing what they want. And that's wrong. That's wrong. It's just that right now we have the people who have an immense amount of power they are trying to do this. They are forsaking things like due process. They're forsaking things like our constitutional agreements. And I don't think the Constitution is like a perfect document.
But it's an agreement.
But it is an agreement that we've come to. It
destroys the mutual trust there.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about this, about mutuality and agreements. Because I think this is maybe something that's important and offers a little bit of a contrast with, okay, so if not fascism to achieve what we want, how do we achieve what we want? How do we achieve a good society?
Gemeinschaftsgefühl. We do something that we think, at least unless there are red flags, that it won't. We literally have information that it won't. We do something that we think will contribute to us and or to others. Like out of embeddedness, not out of exclusion.
And so then there's this process, right? Okay, let's shrink this down to the level of a family. Okay, because and if you're familiar with Adlerian psychology, there's a lot of talk about things like family meetings, okay? Which is, let's say that my kids aren't happy about how something is going. They want...
Bedtime.
Okay, yeah, they want a later bedtime.
I got
which
you,
actually
guys.
this came up in one of our family meetings. So they want a later bedtime. It's fine. They have a right to that opinion. So then we get around and we talk about it. Now, here's the problem, though. Okay, they think they need a later bedtime.
Same.
I don't. So what do we do now? How do we handle that in a mutually respectful way where we've not forsaken the golden rule?
What'd you do?
What do we do?
Yeah, I want to know what you did.
Well, what we do, we have a rule in our house that when it comes to decisions like this, that we need to have a unanimous agreement.
I like it. That's the mutual respect.
Now, obviously, by the way, you can't. That works in a family of four. Obviously, that's not going to work in a community of 330 million people, or however many people we have in the United States. But within the family, we have this agreement that we need absolute unanimity in order to make a decision like that.
Same with us. It's, in order to try an experiment, we all have to be all in and make our own hypotheses about how it's going to go.
So and every time that I tell that to somebody, the pushback that I get, and I think it's really understandable, is they're like, isn't that super inefficient?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's so inefficient on the front end.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, it's way more efficient. And here's why, okay? Let's say on the flip side, let's say that my kids have been really cranky, okay? And so I think that what we need to do is to back up the bedtime. They're going to bed at 9, and let's say I'm like, y'all are too cranky, you need to go to bed at 8:30. And we sit down and we have a conversation about this as a family. Well, here's the thing. Let's say that I don't get agreement from my children on that, okay? But I say, yeah, but for efficiency's sake, I'm the dad, I get to decide when you go to bed, and that's the end of the story, and I become an autocrat, right? Okay, so what's bedtime going to look like now?
A circus. It's going to look like a huge power struggle.
Incessant power struggle.
Which, good for them. To be like, this arbitrary control is BS.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, well, good for them, not good for me,
Not so
and
good
certainly
for you.
not good for the family, and not good for our relationships, right? And so it's like, yeah, it's way more inefficient in one sense to say, well, geez, we don't have an agreement on this, so I guess the bedtime stays as it is. And then it's like, well, gosh, we didn't solve any problems. Yeah, but let's say that now what I can do is be persuasive, which is to win an agreement, not to win an argument, but to win an agreement. And then let's say that there is an instance in which I win an agreement from my children that, yeah, fair enough, let's at least try moving it back to 8:30 and see what happens. Now I don't have to be in power struggle with them ever at bedtime. It's just, this is what we've agreed, and they've bought in. I've not overpowered them. I've not made them feel small, powerless, which people do not like to feel small and powerless, by the way. They don't like that. And so I feel like, the moment that we insist upon democracy, it is true that, yeah, we're going to have Congress who they get together and they argue and they don't do a whole lot. And they're not particularly productive. And what I would like to suggest is that is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Courage is not convenient.
The idea that Congress is better if it moves faster makes no sense to me. Because the only way for it to move fast is that we would have to violate basic principles of democratic living, which is to say we need a level of consensus, we have a structure in place, we agree to that structure, we agree to that process, and yes, we move through that process. It just, I feel like this happens all the time about the immigration debate, right? Like people are like, well, like we can't deal with all this due process stuff. Like we got to just deport these people because it's too inefficient otherwise. Like everything gets gummed up. Our, immigration courts are, got a 10-year backlog. We got to speed this up. To which I say, so by that logic, isn't it reasonable for people to immigrate to this country without going through the due process?
Pick a lane.
It's like you can't justify breaking the law, violating an agreement. And what a law is it's an agreement that we've come to as a society. Now, we can modify the agreement, but it is the existing agreement that we have as a society. If you say, well, I'm justified in violating that because it's too inefficient, okay, so make that point, but then now that becomes the new agreement, and that's got to be spread around equally, in which case it's perfectly justifiable for people to come to this country not through our established legal methodology, because it's horribly inefficient.
Absolutely. Also, you can't believe a lick of what they say. I think a big part of what I was thinking about when you're talking about your family meeting is you also, because I know you and Jesse, that you do a really good job of modeling. They know that when you make an agreement, you keep it. And so it's like it's less of a risk for them to make agreements with you because they know you're not full of butts.
Full of butts.
I was going to say something. I stopped myself though.
Look at you.
Trying to make it family friendly here.
I think that's also very important that I appreciate that what you're saying, that if you can kind of like willy-nilly apply the law of like, well, I like these people, and so like let's not, we're not going to fuss about them. By the way, this is also the problem with oligarchy. This is the exact same thing. If you apply the law differently to different people based on where they sit politically or where they sit in a socioeconomic stratus, or you apply it differently based on their color or their gender identity or fill in the blank, what you do is you could say, yeah, well, that's very efficient and it's, X, Y, and Z. But also what it's doing is it's eroding the integrity and strength of the rule of law. And one of the fascinating things that we have this cool political science research. Everybody's looking for like, okay, well, what's the political and economic system that is best for people? Is it free market capitalism? Is it social democracy? Is it communism? Is it socialism? Is it whatever? And what they found is that there's not like really a clear-cut answer to that. But what does seem to be clear-cut is that in countries where there is a real trust and consistency in the rule of law,
Scandinavia,
things go well.
Yeah, it protects societies against authoritarianism.
People flourish when there's like strong rule of law. And so it's like, if you start saying, and this is a very like fascist thing, Nazi philosophers talked about this all the time. Nazi philosophers talk about this, like the friend-enemy distinction. And it's like, well, yeah, if you're one of the good people, then you have nothing to worry about, right? It's like the moment that you start putting that in there, what you have is this complete breakdown of the rule of law, because there's no trust in it. And so like on the level of family, it's like, if we agree that 9 p.m. is the bedtime, then I can't be rushing in to say, well, it's been a long day and I know it's only 8:15, but you have to go to bed. It's like, no, we have to flesh out the agreement.
Yep.
End of story. And if I don't do that, then now there's what I'm doing is I'm amplifying power struggle. I'm putting people in a one-down position. People do not like to be overpowered, and so then they rebel against that, which then makes me want to crush them even further, and which is why we have this intensification of autocracy right now in the United States. And there does seem to be this need for just kind of stabilizing force of like, hey, we're going to come back to just a basic principle of integrity of everybody's going to play by the same rules. Okay? Whether you're liberal, whether you're conservative, whatever. How about it's not okay to assassinate somebody that you disagree with? How about that? Like,
I agree.
That's a great principle. Yeah. And the moment that we start to qualify that by like, well, unless they're like a really bad guy and they're saying racist stuff and they're saying homophobic stuff and whatever, and we should call stuff racist. We should call stuff homophobic and transphobic and whatever. Like, we should totally do that. And the penalty for those things in a civil society where we have agreements about when violence is justified, and those do not include I disagree with them politically or socially, then we need to like stick to that. It's as much a lean into fascism when people talk about or take some kind of pleasure in Charlie Kirk being assassinated. That is a lean into fascism, because what it says is there's an out group and an in group, and if you're in the out group, we're justified in doing whatever we want to do to you.
Just like hearing that makes my heart hurt.
Charlie Kirk is messing up the purity of our society with his toxic rhetoric. And by the way, I do agree that his rhetoric was toxic. Like, I'm in agreement about that. But if it's, well, we've got to exterminate that. That's he's scum, he's vermin, he's whatever. So we're gonna cut that out, and it's just like cutting out a little piece of cancer in our bodies, and then our society is going to be better. That is fascist. Now, what I will say is that we're talking about the Charlie Kirk thing. what the statistics show us is that there is a side of the aisle that is leaning more heavily into fascism and much more quick to engage in and justify political violence. And right now in the United States in 2025, that is the political right, which I almost hesitate to call the political right because they're not even really conservative.
No.
It's fascism, and I'm really not scared to call it that. It's like, it is what it is.
That's what it is. You gotta own it. If you're gonna pick it, at least own it.
Yeah.
There could be some modicum of respect there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what can people do? Like a listener, perhaps.
Okay, so a few things. One is that I think we really, really need to work on cutting out contemptuous language, both from our mouths and also from our keyboards and also in our minds. When we start thinking of people as separate from us, of like, I will flourish if they
don't
just disappear,
yeah.
if they go away.
Yeah.
What we're doing is we're playing along with the root of fascism because we've disconnected from this we feeling altogether. So I think that's a big thing. I think also a personal commitment to I will not achieve my goals by overpowering other people. And that's for parents, that is for couples,
coworkers,
that is within business and organizational structures, that is whatever, to win agreements rather than arguments. That's something from Ray Lowe that we got from our friend Marina Bluestein. I think those are the things that, like, playing that out on a personal level, really, I'm not saying that it's everything, but it is a place to start, and it is something we actually like have the power to do.
I mean, we just did an episode on encouragement. It reminds me of Roscoe. That probably meant the world, and Roscoe will never forget that.
Yeah.
Ever in his whole life, that he can do hard things, and it doesn't even have to be perfect. He can accidentally do it. He can do it real shitty and then do it well.
Yeah.
You know, it just makes me think of that. Also, didn't you write a journal article on contemptuous?
Yeah, contemptuous political partisanship.
We'll link it.
Yeah, we can create a link to that. I think that encapsulates a lot of these ideas. I do think there's even this, right, that you made such an important point earlier that I think a lot of people lean into fascism out of a place of discouragement and fear.
Yeah.
And so to also, there's a level to which, and I'm not saying like compromise. That's not even what I'm talking about. What I mean is a kind of reassurance to other people of like, hey, just so you know, I am not interested in committing political violence toward you. We disagree, and I absolutely affirm your right to be here, to exist, to be around, whatever. To offer some level of reassurance, I think, goes a really long way to kind of diffuse it. Like, the moment that something that feels real to somebody, it diffuses a lot, right? Which is like, oh, this person doesn't, I really thought they were my enemy, and I really thought they were gunning for me to like take me down and ruin my life, and now that doesn't seem to be the case. And so maybe then I don't have to be so aggressive and be so concerned with protecting myself via force and extreme measures. Yeah.
I love when people just admit stuff like that out loud. I'm like, I think I can be friends with them. They're willing, like, I know where I stand with them. They're admitting it right to my face. I appreciate it.
An interesting question to ask. This would be my like last takeaway, and I don't know if you would have something to add, but a great question to ask somebody when they are saying things like this of like, well, who cares about the Constitution is just inefficient, like we don't need to bother about that. Just you ask, can you tell me what is it that you are afraid of? Help me understand your fear. And it may be, I mean, look, sometimes the answers that I get to that are just like, oh, like it's crazy, it's wild. But also helps me to understand and at least from a position of empathy to be like, wow, that does sound scary. Like, you think that there are liberal Democrats out there who are arming themselves to come and drag you out of your home,
it's a perception, but
and
it's
murder
real.
you and turn your kids into something that you don't want them to be, and I get why that would be scary.
Yeah, sounds scary.
It's, catastrophizing, and it's not particularly grounded in reality, but like that is scary. And then is there some way that we can offer some level of reassurance, that it speaks some level of reassurance into that. I think that's a much more humanizing way to handle this problem than just shouting people down and name calling.
It doesn't cost anything except for time.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great way to end it.
Yeah.
I'm not following that.
You're okay. Well, there we go. So I wonder how many followers we lost. We're so oppressed. If you unfollowed us, it's oppression. I'm being sarcastic, of course. Maybe some people have made it to the end of the episode. If you have, thanks for listening, and we hope you're not too angry at us for your sake.
You're allowed to be angry.
I mean, you can be angry if you want, but for your sake, we hope you're not too angry. We're rooting for you. We're truly, we are. And hope you'll join us for our next episode. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.